Oh, something.
Yeah, that's nice.
Holy shit moly, all right.
For over 230 years, Oak Island has remained a place where myth and reality collide, an isolated speck in the North Atlantic that has swallowed fortunes, sparked rivalries, and claimed 6 lives in the relentless pursuit of an answer. The legend began in 1795, when the discovery of a deep, engineered shaft, later known as the Money Pit, set off the world's longest-running treasure hunt. And according to the infamous curse, one more soul must be lost before the island finally reveals its truth. As Season 13 begins, that truth suddenly feels closer than ever. Rick and Marty Lagina, along with Craig Tester and their veteran team, believe they are now standing on the edge of the most important breakthrough in Oak Island history. After years of collapses, dead ends, and near misses, the team enters the new season with a strategy sharper and more aggressive than anything attempted before. Their mission is built around one game-changing realization. The treasure they've been chasing for decades may no longer lie in the original Money Pit at all. Instead, evidence suggests it fell far deeper, into a natural geological void known as the Solution Channel, a massive water-filled cavity more than 200 feet beneath the surface. And then comes the moment that changes everything. A single artifact, hidden for 175 years, emerges from the shadows, a bent silver coin, recovered in the legendary 1849 Pilato incident. A relic that connects the present to a moment nearly a century before the Laginas were born. A relic that might finally prove something extraordinary lies buried in the depths of Oak Island. The theory began as a whisper, a quiet suspicion buried beneath years of failed digs and collapsing shafts, but now, for Rick and Marty Lagina, it has become the foundation of their boldest decision yet. After centuries of searching and countless attempts to reach the fabled heart of the Money Pit, new geological scans have revealed something impossible to ignore. The treasure may no longer be where history swore it should be. Layer after layer of sediment, flooding events, and violent ground shifts may have forced the entire deposit to slip deeper into the island itself, funneling downward through a natural geological throat known as the Solution Channel. This wasn't a simple sinkhole, but a vast limestone void stretching hundreds of feet below, a cavern so ancient and untouched that even modern instruments struggle to map its full reach. And for the first time, the brothers realized that the mystery of Oak Island might not be centered around a single location. It might be drifting in the darkness far beneath their feet. As the team gathered around the latest seismic model, the weight of this revelation settled over them like a silent storm. Every past expedition, every historic shaft, every hopeful strike of the drill, suddenly it all felt like humanity had been searching in the wrong place entirely. If the treasure had indeed fallen, it would have tumbled nearly 200 feet into a natural chute capable of swallowing ships, artifacts, and human-built structures without leaving a trace. That idea alone reframed centuries of history. The original depositors might not have intended such a collapse, but the island had made its own decisions over time, shifting the ground and carrying secrets deeper into the limestone maze below. And now, for the first time, the Laginas were willing to follow it into the unknown. With this theory shaping the season's entire mission, the team shifted their focus from vertical shafts to a horizontal frontier, mapping the cavern system with precision technologies never before used on the island. This wasn't just another excavation. It was an operation more akin to deep earth archaeology, requiring patience, accuracy, and a willingness to confront the sheer unpredictability of nature. Each new reading hinted at a debris field, scattered timber, metallic signatures, and dense pockets of material that didn't belong in a natural cave. If the treasure had indeed cascaded into this underground realm, it would have fractured, dispersed, and rested somewhere along this silent, ancient pathway. The realization ignited both hope and fear. Hope, because the Laginas finally had a direction that matched science, history, and logic. Fear, because entering the solution channel meant stepping into a landscape untouched by human hands for thousands of years. One wrong move could destabilize the cavern, trigger another collapse, or bury the truth forever. Yet for Rick, there was no hesitation. The island was speaking in its own slow, geological language, revealing that the treasure had not vanished, only migrated. And now, after 2 centuries of misdirection, the brothers were finally following the trail into the earth itself, toward the place where the truth of Oak Island may have finally come to rest. The discovery began not in the field, but in the quiet tension of the war room, where history has a way of resurfacing when no one expects it. As Steve Solomon carefully unfolded a set of archival documents, a small metallic clink broke the silence. What he placed on the table was no ordinary find. It was a Portuguese coin believed to date back to the 14th century, its surface worn yet unmistakably marked by a world far older than Oak Island's written history. The room shifted with a sudden sense of gravity. This wasn't speculation. This wasn't theory. This was the first moment in the entire search where an artifact directly tied to the fabled treasure had resurfaced in the modern era, and it changed the tone of the investigation instantly. The weight of the discovery expanded even further when Steve revealed the connection that no one saw coming. In 1849, a legendary digger named Jotham B. McCulley documented an even more mysterious figure on the island, a man known only as Piblato. He was not a treasure hunter nor a hired worker, but a wanderer who appeared at the money pit during some of the earliest excavations. According to the old logbooks, Piblato descended to a depth of 98 feet, one of the last stable levels before the infamous collapse, and quietly slipped something into his pocket before climbing back up the ladder. No one at the time knew what he had taken. No description was recorded. The event became a footnote in history, overshadowed by the chaos that soon followed, until now. As the team examined the coin's strange condition, the patina, the markings, the unexpected age, they realized this wasn't just a piece of currency. It was a traveler, a survivor, an object that shouldn't have been buried beneath a remote island in the 1800s, let alone nearly a century before Columbus even crossed the Atlantic. The implications were staggering. If the coin truly matched the era and origin of Portuguese maritime explorers, then it meant Oak Island's connection to Old World navigators was no longer myth, but material truth. It suggested a journey that spanned oceans, centuries, and untold secrets, secrets that someone desperately tried to hide and someone else, perhaps Piblato, tried quietly to retrieve. What stunned the team further was the realization that this single artifact tied 2 timelines together: the modern search effort and the earliest documented dig. Piblato had seen something in that pit, something valuable enough to take, and the coin now resting under the war room lights may have been his silent testimony. Perhaps he recognized it. Perhaps he feared what revealing it would unleash. Whatever the reason, the object he carried in 1849 had found its way back into the hands of those who understood its significance. For Rick and Marty, the discovery wasn't simply thrilling, it was grounding. For decades, Oak Island has been a landscape of theories stacked upon speculation. But here, finally, was an artifact that survived the centuries and resurfaced with a story etched into its weathered face. It wasn't just a clue. It was proof that the treasure, whatever form it truly takes, once existed in human hands. And now, with this coin bridging centuries of mystery, the Laginas knew the search had entered an entirely new chapter, one rooted not in hope alone, but in undeniable evidence. The moment the magnifier passed over the worn surface of the coin, a hush fell over the room, because beneath centuries of corrosion, a faint but unmistakable pattern began to emerge. It wasn't random, it wasn't accidental. It was deliberate, carved by a hand that belonged to a world far older and far more secretive than Oak Island's recorded history. As the team leaned closer, the lines resolved into a shape that sent a ripple of disbelief through the war room. A cross. But not just any cross. Its proportions, its flared arms, its subtle curvature, everything pointed to one chilling possibility. This symbol appeared to match the ancient insignia associated with the Knights Templar. The realization moved slowly at first, like a tide creeping across sand before crashing in with full force. For years, the Templar theory had existed on the fringes of the Oak Island investigation. Fascinating, romantic, but always just out of reach. Historians whispered about secret voyages, hidden relics, and forbidden treasures smuggled across oceans by an order that vanished into legend. Yet despite all the speculation, no one had ever produced a physical artifact to tie the medieval world of the Templars directly to Oak Island. Until now, the coin, already ancient, suddenly carried a weight far beyond its monetary value. It became a bridge, a conduit, linking the island to one of the most enigmatic brotherhoods in human history. As Rick slowly turned the coin under the light, the team began debating its deeper origins. Some believed the symbol aligned more closely with the later Knights of Christ, Portugal's successor order to the suppressed Templars, whose navigators were among the first Europeans to explore the Atlantic. Others noted that the cross style was nearly identical to markings found on 14th and 15th century Portuguese Templar artifacts, suggesting the coin may have belonged to someone connected to a medieval maritime mission. The theories, once speculative, now had archaeological substance, etched into weathered metal that had somehow found its way into the depths of the money pit. What made the discovery even more astonishing was the timing. If the coin truly originated from a Templar or Knights of Christ source, then its presence on Oak Island could not be dismissed as coincidence. It implied intention, travel, purpose, perhaps even a mission, carried out in secrecy centuries before the island appeared on any official map. That possibility reframed the entire investigation. The flood tunnels, the engineered shafts, the booby traps, all the complex architecture beneath the island could suddenly be interpreted through the lens of medieval engineering, maritime secrecy, and religious exile. The coin no longer stood alone. It became part of a narrative far greater than the team expected, one involving faith, persecution, and a brotherhood rumored to safeguard knowledge too powerful for their era. With each passing moment, the Templar connection grew stronger, transforming from a fringe theory into a credible historical thread. And as Rick held the ancient artifact in his hand, he couldn't help but feel that the island was finally starting to speak, revealing not answers, but the first hints of a story that had been buried, protected, and fiercely guarded for more than 700 years. The drilling began like countless operations before it, steady, rhythmic, controlled. But on Oak Island, the ground has a memory of its own, and it never reveals its secrets quietly. As the team advanced boreholes J6, 8, and 5, the machinery suddenly shuddered, followed by a hollow, echoing drop that coursed through the rig like a pulse. The rods didn't meet resistance. They fell, clean, uninterrupted, into a void that no one expected to hit this early. The reaction was instantaneous. Eyes lifted, conversations stopped. The unmistakable sign was there. They had broken through into the long-theorized geological cavity known as the solution channel. For Rick, Marty, and the entire crew, this wasn't just an engineering milestone. It was a moment that rewired the course of their investigation. The solution channel had been one of the most debated features beneath Oak Island, an underground cavern thought to stretch beneath the original money pit, capable of swallowing debris, structures, and perhaps even the treasure itself over centuries of natural erosion. And now, for the first time, the team had physically breached its ceiling. The drilling rods dropped with a freedom that signaled open space, vast, silent, and untouched since the last 19th century diggers unknowingly triggered its collapse. But the island wasn't finished speaking. As the spoils were brought to the surface, mixed among the mud and fractured stone, were unmistakable artifacts of human intervention. Thin, rusted slivers of metal that Dirk Leahy immediately recognized. These weren't natural fragments. They were remnants of 19th century drill casing, the very type used by early searchers who pushed the limits of their technology as they battled flood tunnels, cave-ins, and the unforgiving geology of the money pit. Their presence was not symbolic. It was proof that they were drilling in the exact footprint where the earliest treasure hunters once stood, digging into the same cursed ground that swallowed their tools, machinery, and hopes nearly 2 centuries earlier. The discovery brought an unexpected emotional weight. It was as if time folded in on itself, linking the modern team to the men who first chased the island's promise with nothing but hand tools and unyielding determination. Their drill casing hadn't moved far. Gravity had carried it downward, deeper and deeper, until it finally came to rest in the solution channel, perhaps alongside whatever else plummeted into the abyss during that catastrophic collapse. Every fragment recovered from the spoils felt like a whisper from the past, a sign that the island's hidden architecture hadn't vanished. It had simply shifted. And now, with their equipment inside the very cavern believed to hold centuries of fallen debris, the Laginas knew they were operating at the threshold of revelation. They had not just entered a void. They had entered the final resting place of everything the money pit once held: wooden platforms, searcher tools, and possibly the treasure itself. The path forward was no longer a mystery. The solution channel had opened, and it was inviting them deeper into the island's darkest, oldest secrets. Beneath the quiet soil of Lot 5, a story far older than the money pit was beginning to surface, one that challenged everything the team thought they knew about the island's earliest inhabitants. What initially appeared to be just another patch of wooded land quickly transformed into a site of astonishing archaeological significance. As the dig deepened, the outline of a rounded stone foundation emerged, its curvature too precise to be natural and too weathered to be recent. Nearby, the rectangular footprint of a second structure took shape, its dimensions suggesting long-term habitation rather than temporary shelter. These were not the crude remains of casual explorers. They were the imprints of a settlement, planned, occupied, and deliberately concealed. As the team brushed away layers of soil, the ground began offering up objects that spoke volumes about the people who once lived here. Among the first finds was slipware pottery, its glaze cracked, but unmistakably dated to between 1675 and 1770. This wasn't the type of crude ceramic one might expect from early settlers. It carried a level of craftsmanship suggesting refinement and purpose, as though intended for people who traveled far and prepared carefully for their journey. Mixed in were iron fasteners, simple yet sturdy pieces of hardware that hinted at shipbuilding traditions or maritime experience. These were tools of navigation, construction, and survival, not trinkets lost by chance. Then came the most enigmatic discovery: ancient beads, small yet undeniably aged, their origins stretching back centuries. Their style did not belong to the colonial period, nor did they match the common trade items exchanged between settlers and local Mi'kmaq groups. Instead, they hinted at a lineage tied to distant shores and older cultures. Their presence raised a chilling possibility that Lot 5 may once have served as a staging ground for travelers who reached Oak Island long before the Money Pit was ever conceived. Perhaps these beads belonged to men who carried foreign maps, sacred relics, or clandestine missions across the Atlantic. The deeper the team investigated, the more Lot 5 began to resemble a hidden base camp, an operational site quietly used and reused over multiple generations. It was not built in haste. Its foundations suggested permanence. Its artifacts suggested secrecy. Whoever lived here knew how to remain unseen, and perhaps how to guard something far larger than themselves. And as each item was lifted into the daylight, it became increasingly clear that this place may have been the heart of an ancient operation, one connected not only to the island's earliest engineering, but possibly to medieval visitors whose identities have been lost to time. For Rick and the others, the implications were staggering. Lot 5 was no longer a peripheral patch of land. It was a window into a forgotten chapter of the island's past, one that predated the Money Pit, the Searchers, and even the earliest recorded settlements. It suggested preparation, intention, and a purpose carried across centuries. And with every discovery, the theory grew stronger. Someone was here long before modern history began writing its version of the Oak Island mystery. And they were building something, living in secrecy, working in silence, and leaving traces faint enough to remain hidden. Until now.